The Higher Education Freedom of Speech Bill is currently making its way through Parliament. Richard, what should universities be doing now to prepare for this?
I think we're some distance from the bill becoming law. It's got various stages in the Houses of Parliament to get through. And to be honest, progress to date has been pretty slow. But it did form part of the Conservative Party's election manifesto, and therefore one can expect the bill will progress to becoming law. But I think also there'll be actually quite a bit of change to the detail in the bill before that happens. Having said that, there are things that registered higher education providers can do now which are likely to be worthwhile. And that's because many universities are already subject to a duty to promote freedom of speech within the law as a result of a 1986 piece of legislation called the Education No. 2 Act 1986. That act places an obligation on a university to take such steps as are reasonably practicable to ensure that freedom of speech within the law is secured for members, students, employees, and visiting speakers. And this duty includes that the university will take reasonably practicable steps to ensure that the use of the premises of the university and its students' union will not be denied to an individual or group because of their beliefs or views or their free policies or objectives. Now, this existing law, this 1986 Act, also requires the university to have a code of practice which sets out how the institution will make decisions on allowing its premises and the premises of its students' union to be used for meetings. And this duty to take such steps as are reasonably practicable to secure freedom of speech within the law for staff, students, members, and visitors, and this duty to have a code of practice are pretty much the same as that which is set out in the bill. So I'd suggest that dusting off the old code of practice and reviewing it for today's climate would be very much a worthwhile step to do in preparation for the bill eventually becoming law.
Okay, that's really useful, thanks. You mentioned then that the primary duties under the bill are pretty much the same as those duties to which the universities are already subject. So is there anything new that this bill introduces?
Yes, there is. And to be honest, probably more than could fairly be fitted into the quick chat that we're having, but let's focus on enforcement. The bill has teeth, 3 teeth, which now I think about it doesn't sound terribly fearsome, so perhaps I'd better say 3 sets of teeth. The first of these teeth is that the Office for Students, which is the higher education regulator for England, is given a number of duties as part of its regulatory responsibility. And those are to ensure that the higher education provider functions in a way that promotes the importance of freedom of speech within the law and academic freedom, a concept that's set out in a bit more detail in the bill. The duty on the OFS includes monitoring providers' compliance with those 2 duties and engaging in enforcement action when appropriate to do so. It's also worth noting that the OFS will gain oversights of students' unions in connection with freedom of speech as well. Second set of teeth. The OFS is to operate a complaint scheme under which people who suffer adverse consequences as a result of a failure by the provider to protect freedom of speech or academic freedom can complain to the OFS. The Office for Students is to run this complaint scheme and not the Office of the Independent Adjudicator. In fact, the bill expressly excludes the OIA's jurisdiction, for want of a better word, over matters relating to freedom of speech and academic freedom. The OFS, under the complaint scheme, will be required to make recommendations to providers and student unions where it finds a complaint is justified or partly justified. And significantly, it'll be able to require the provider or the student union to contribute towards its costs of dealing with the complaint. The third set of teeth are that a person will be able to bring a claim in either the civil court, so the High Court or the County Court, against a provider or a students' union if they consider that the provider has breached the duty to take steps to protect freedom of speech or academic freedom. And this means that the individual, the person bringing the claim, might be able to get damages or an injunction or a declaration from the court that says that the provider has failed to protect freedom of speech and or academic freedom. And I think it finally, those are the 3 sets of teeth. I think it's perhaps important to make sure that we focus on the fact that these are higher education providers in England, so these bits don't apply in Wales, Scotland or Northern Ireland.
That's really interesting. Thanks very much for your time, Richard.
Okay, not at all.